Leadership is the most misunderstood force in the world. More businesses collapse from poor leadership than poor products. More marriages fail from poor leadership than lack of money. More nations suffer from poor leadership than lack of resources. You see, leadership is that invisible force that determines whether everything sinks or swims. And the dangerous part is this: many people want authority without understanding responsibility. Many people want influence without understanding sacrifice. Many people want titles without understanding leadership. So today, we're exposing the truth about leadership. No motivational quotes. This is not about corporate jargon. Today, we uncover what leadership truly is, why most leaders, many leaders, fail at it, and why leadership determines the survival or destruction of every business, household, church, and nation. You see, I genuinely believe that this may become one of the most powerful lessons on leadership you've ever learned. So please grab a notebook, because this lesson can transform your business, your marriage, your family, your ministry, your community, and even your country. So let's get into it. Before we can talk about good leadership, we first have to define leadership. And surprisingly, the answer has been hiding in the word itself. See, the word leadership comes from Old English roots. Leiden, it means to guide, conduct, to go before, to show the way. And the suffix ship, it refers to skill, office, or position. So leadership simply means having the skill and embracing the responsibility to guide people in the right direction with your thoughts, words, and actions. Notice something important. Leadership is not a title. Leadership is embraced responsibility. A CEO can have a title and still be a terrible leader. A husband can have authority and still fail his family. A pastor can have a microphone and a large office and still mislead people, because leadership is not proven by position. Leadership is proven by conduct and results. And whether people realize it or not, everybody's leading something. That's a fact. A business, a home, a classroom, a community. So the question is not, am I a leader? The question is, what direction is my leadership moving things, for better or for worse? See, whether your business thrives or not is heavily anchored to leadership. And this also applies to politics, religion, marriage, family, and community. People experience leadership before they experience your systems. You can have great products, great ideas, great talent, but poor leadership can destroy it all. A toxic leader can destroy a company culture. A toxic leader can destroy employee morale, can destroy innovation, can betray trust, and destroy long-term growth. But on the other hand, a strong leader, they can take average resources and build extraordinary outcomes. Or they can take a bad situation and turn it all around. Remember in 1996, Steve Jobs announced Apple was 90 days from bankruptcy. He got on a mission to cut off the waste, going from more than 300 products to 10. And this focus birthed iPhone, iPad, and the Mac. You see, leadership determines direction, culture, discipline, execution, and survival. That's why leadership is one of the most important skills a human being can develop. Now, let's talk about the prerequisites for leadership development. The first prerequisite for leadership development is will. The willingness to learn, the willingness to grow, the willingness to be corrected, and most importantly, the willingness to change. One of the greatest dangers in leadership is becoming emotionally attached to your own method. I was recently leading a discussion about identity crisis, and some people were rightfully uncomfortable with the phrase identity crisis. Not because the issue wasn't real, but because the wording created resistance. So instead of forcing my framing, I immediately had to pivot. I modified the discussion topic to challenges navigating different seasons in life. And suddenly more people started to open up and a great discussion ensued. What's the lesson here? Great leaders are not obsessed with being right. Great leaders are obsessed with accomplishing the mission. And sometimes leadership, it means sacrificing ego for effectiveness. And many leaders, they fail because they want control more than they want results. The second requirement for leadership development is skill. Leadership is not something you magically receive one day. It is developed over time. Leadership is developed through failure, discipline, experience, correction, and growth. Most people love conversations about change, but resist the transformation change requires. Everybody is quick to say amen, but few actually pursue change. And that's why many businesses stay stagnant. In spite of all the conferences, all the education, leaders keep repeating the same mistakes. Marriages remain unhealthy because information alone does not transform people. Applied wisdom does. And that's the definition of skill. Your leadership grows when learning changes the way you think, speak, and act. Someone once shared with me that they thought I had a skill for navigating hard conversations. And that's true. But what you don't realize is that skill was developed after many years of saying the wrong things, getting corrected, getting in trouble, and not being afraid to try again. See, skill is built when you apply wisdom from experience. And the third prerequisite for leadership development, the part nobody talks about, is leadership has a bill. And very few people are willing to pay it, right? Most people pursue leadership for power, for recognition, status, for control, for influence. But the greatest leaders, they understand something deeper. The true beneficiary of great leadership should be the people being led. I'll let that sink in. He said, a true leader understands sacrifice. A true leader absorbs pressure. A true leader loses sleep while others rest. A true leader carries burdens that others cannot see. And if service does not satisfy you, leadership will eventually frustrate you, period. Because leadership is not comfortable. Leadership is responsibility. I love how Jesus Christ puts it. He says, whoever wants to become great among you must become your servant. That completely destroys the worldly perception of leadership, right? Because to the world, great leaders are served, but truthfully, great leaders are called to serve. So here's my question. Which prerequisite do you find most challenging? The will to grow, the skill to build from experience, or the bill of sacrifice? Drop a comment and let us know. Now let's discuss leadership styles. You see, there are many frameworks, but three major patterns, dominant leadership patterns I want us to address. First, autocratic leadership. This is your monarch, where a leader is king. One leader determines direction and everyone follows. Contrary to popular opinion, though, this is not always a bad thing. Sometimes this style is necessary during a crisis or, for peculiar circumstances, when speed matters, when hesitation is dangerous, and someone has to make a quick call. In the final seconds of the game, certain leaders are often selected to make the last call. Like LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Steve Curry. Take the shot or go for the assist. You see, there's no time for a team huddle. They make an autocratic call. In a hostage situation, someone must authorize the sniper to pull the trigger on the assailant. Sometimes it's an autocratic call. In a business, the CEO sometimes must make an autocratic call. On cuts, because their personal assets guarantee the business loan. But unhealthy authoritarian leadership becomes oppressive. That's when the leader relies on power that comes with their office rather than good sense to make decisions. The second type of leadership style is democratic leadership. This leadership style seeks collaboration, input, discussion, team involvement, kumbaya. This creates buy-in, right? But we have to be careful. Many leaders create the illusion of being democratic while subtly making autocratic decisions anyway. Have you ever had a leader that was always looking for feedback loops, but never did anything consistent with the results of that input? I call it a democratic monarchy. And third is sporadic leadership. This is laissez-faire, anything goes kind of leadership. There's no vision, there's no strategy, only reacting when disaster happens. And sadly, many businesses operate this way, just surviving crisis after crisis. Eventually, that destroys the organization. You see, sporadic leadership is when the leader wants to get rid of the problem by making it someone else's problem. What are some signs of sporadic leadership? This includes when the leader delegates responsibility without authority, no strategy, or if a leader ignores issues until they become a crisis. And strong leaders avoid sporadic leaderships, right, styles, because they face issues with solutions. The truth is, good leaders know that different solutions require different approaches. Sometimes collaboration is wisdom, sometimes decisive authority is necessary. But the leadership style that you use requires discernment. So today we've discovered something critical. Leadership is not a title. Leadership is responsibility. Leadership is direction. Leadership is stewardship. But this now raises the next question. What actually separates great leaders from average ones? What qualities allow certain leaders to build kingdoms while others destroy organizations? And that is exactly what we uncover in part 2, the 5 characteristics of great leaders. And trust me, that episode may completely change the way you lead or select a leader for your organization. I'll see you in part 2.